Okay, I'm going to call the school committee meeting of May 19th to order and ask you to join me with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we need to take one item out of order first, and that is new business B1, the first meeting of the new, not school year, the new election cycle for the school committee. No members have changed, so we need a motion to elect a chairperson.
Motion to elect Chris Yates as the chairperson.
Second.
Wow.
So that was
Right, everyone.
Marcia and
Everyone.
Yeah, I think it was unanimous.
I'll give it to Monsignor.
I was gonna drag that out and make you feel a little pressured there.
Any discussion, any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. Next, I'm going to make a motion to elect Marcia Mitchell as vice chairperson.
Second.
I'll give that to Zach Mall. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? And I'm going to make a motion to elect Erica Excites as secretary again.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, now we need, actually, I'll just call the motion. I'm going to make a motion for the Hudson Public School Committee to relocate to G101 and enter into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, in order to conduct collective bargaining session with the Hudson Para-Educators Association, specifically to hear a level 3 grievance and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, specifically deliberate regarding a response to a level 3 grievance filed by the Hudson Para-Education Association, whereas discussion during an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee or the school district. The school committee will return to regular business in F101, probably somewhere around 7:15 would be my guess, or after upon the conclusion of the executive session. So I'm making that motion. Erica is the second, and we need a roll call vote. We'll go right down the line.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, so I'll know we're going into executive session to return to public session. Thank you. We're going to move on to reports and presentations, and first are the student presentations.
Hello everyone, it's nice to be with you for our final time. I hope you had a awesome meeting earlier, and so some of the previous events and some current events at Hudson High are on from May 4th through the 15th. There was AP testing. Tonight there was the CAP night, as many of you know, and that was held from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I hope all that went well for you and you enjoyed some of the projects. So as for some upcoming events, on May 20th and the 21st, there will be math MCAS for grades 8 and 10 and a reverse half day for all the other grades. I hope all of you enjoy that and good luck on those MCAS. On May 25th, that is Memorial Day. Thank you to all those that have served. And from May 26th to the 29th, there will be senior exams. And for more details, you can find that under senior events section. Links, I think that's in the round robin. On May 28th, there will be the 8th grade boat cruise from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's pretty late for some 8th graders though. So, and on May 29th, there will be ELD family night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And this is also our last day for the seniors.
So some sports announcements is that, so spring sports are slowly coming to an end. And
Hold on one second. Cameron, should we pause for the cameras? Just want you to be on camera at your last meeting.
Of course. Yeah, that's it.
Your hair is like a tickly big time.
Here's a look.
Mine's the same.
They went to bed.
What would you do without her?
That was my laptop.
I did. You're right, one. Nope, I did. Sorry. Funny.
That's fine. I just wanted you to know.
Wait.
Seattle.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, you may proceed.
All right, so about the sporting events. Spring sports are slowly coming to an end, and JV softball and JV baseball are closing up this week. But here's a breakdown of how the seasons have gone record-wise so far. Boys varsity baseball went 10-6. Girls varsity tennis went 9-7. Boys varsity lacrosse went 13-1 and won their league. Girls varsity lacrosse went 9-4. Girls track and field went 1-3. Boys track and field went 2-3. Girls varsity softball went 4-10. So good luck to all the teams that are progressing into the off season, and great work everyone. Go Hawks. So it's been a little while since our last meeting, so we have a lot of stuff that Hudson has been up to. A little while ago was prom. All of the juniors said that it was an incredible experience, and I went to the pre-prom. I thought it was a lot of fun to see people there. Everyone dressed up, had a great time, it looked great, and I hope everyone had a lot of fun. Fire Dinner, HHS Drama Society had their shows this past weekend and Friday. The show was about cavemen and how they were learning to adapt to the fire that came. So congratulations to everyone and great work. The village table also occurred, which was an event where students were brought into downtown Hudson and were able to show off their art and storytelling ability. So English classes had people provide projects. Interact Club had a Hudson themed coloring book that they were distributing. And student engagement in the community was very high, as a lot of students it was inspiring for students to connect to the community via this event. Also, seniors, make sure you're checking out those senior events that are coming up. I have the calendar pulled up, and on June 2nd, there will be the baccalaureate ceremony at 6 p.m. On June 3rd, there will be the senior trip to Boston for the Cash on Scavenger Hunt. Thursday, June 4th, Scholarship and Awards Night will be at 7 p.m. June 5th at 6 p.m. will be senior reception, and June 6th will be graduation, and June 7th is the rain date for graduation. So congratulations, seniors. A few weeks left. We got this. And Cap Night happened a few hours ago. A lot of 8th graders and a lot of upperclassmen as well made their civic action projects and were able to display them, and I hope we were able to walk around and see some of them. As far as student council, the Quinn Fly Down Day is in the process of happening, where some people from the student government will be trying to come down Quinn and kind of introduce them and give them a look into Hudson High, as well as Hudson Student Council, and we'll kind of avoid the shock and stress of early September of upcoming 8th graders who want to join student council but didn't know much about it leading into it.
And while we might not have any concerns for the student body, I just want to say thank you for everything that you guys do. And it's nice sharing these last moments with you guys, for both Jackson and myself. And we hope that all of you have a great summer. And again, thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I love coming to these meetings, and it means a lot to be able to share and be a part of the community with all of you.
I was going to say thank you very much. We've enjoyed having you. You've both been here for 2 years. Julian, I have a request for you. On your last day of school here, I want you to walk around and check every bubbler.
All right.
To make sure they're working.
I will.
And then report back to Ms. Becky so that we know.
All right, I will.
Do you guys want to share what you're doing post-graduation?
Sure. I'm going to Middlebury College up in Vermont, and I'm studying molecular biology and biochemistry and double majoring in English as well.
Oh,
And mine's a little more underwhelming. I plan to attend Babson, and I'm undecided.
very nice. Both great school. Congratulations.
That's it.
Do you guys have any interest in keeping your nameplates?
I would love that, actually.
Leave us the whole.
Yeah, we need the whole
We need the
stuff.
folders, but you guys can take the,
Thank
if you want to take Sal's and give it to her too.
Of course. Something to the table.
So Sal is senior?
Actually, the junior.
Oh, she is Sal.
Leave her.
All right. Hopefully she comes back next year.
No, we'll give it to her.
Thank
you, guys.
Thank you, great representative. Thank you.
No problem.
Could be a tough act to follow. That is for sure.
So when you check the bubblers, report back to Ms. Becky and request that she get the information to us, so we know everything.
All right, I will.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Best of luck.
Thank you. Have a great night. Have a great rest of
I'm
the
cool.
Have fun skiing up there.
I will. See you later.
Next, we have the report of the superintendent.
All right, so in the interest of time, because we started a little bit late, I'll be quick. I'm not gonna go over what was in the memo with you unless you have questions, but I do want to point out I was incorrect in the memo, noting that baccalaureate was at 7. It's correct on my slides, and I'm not gonna show you tonight, but it's actually at 6, which is what, is mentioned tonight, so, just keep that in mind if you're gonna attend baccalaureate, which you don't need a ticket for. It would be nice if you're planning to go, if you let me know, only because then, make sure we have a space for you, to sit. And the same for any of the other events. I would just encourage the committee, as many as we can get to come to graduation. It is nice, to have school committee representation as much as possible at graduation. It is, in many ways, one of the community's largest events. We do have a lot of people there, and it's great just to have your presence. So I know Marcia, you'll be providing us some remarks, so that's very nice.
I plan to be a baccalaureate awards night and graduation.
Yeah. I'll be at graduation.
Great. All right, so I just want to give you just a couple of other items that were not in but came up since I put my packet together for you. So we received a memo late last week around policy changes. We just went through this. So there's some minor policy changes that MASC is recommending that we put in front of our school committees. We have 2 options. We could wait to the fall. They are minor, so I want to know if the committee would be comfortable with sort of expediting the process, and then I bring the minor changes to you at one meeting, and then we would do a second round until the fall starts. Can't wait to get to a minute. Stop. I'm trying to show you that, but you told me to go quick.
I see some pressure, and it's just not in the cards.
So basically what I'm saying is, would you be comfortable with us skipping the first step, which is having these policy subcommittee? I understand if you're not, given the types of changes we're looking at here, if it was something significant, I would think differently, but if the policy sub is okay with that, I could bring the draft to the first June meeting, and then you could look at them for a second reading, the second June meeting, and we could get them approved just to end the year. It's really just adding, like, update them to make sure that they're in compliance with the law, so that's what a lot of these are. There is one, you may have heard that the state has passed new legislation and regulations around timeout spaces. So, pretty specific. We have a new policy that has been written by our attorneys that they want to have you just basically swap out with our existing policy that speaks to similar spaces. So it's that, and then about 4 or 5 suggestions from MASC on adjusting a couple of minor policies. So does that sound acceptable to you for me to skip that first step, which, okay. So then I'll plan to bring a draft of those changes to the first June meeting, and then we'll bring the second for that. I wanted to let you know that Dan and I mentioned the security audit proposal we received, and I sent you a copy of the only one that we've received to date. We have a Zoom call on Friday with a second vendor, so I'm happy that we're at least able to get a second one to look at and see where we're at, so I'll keep you posted on that. I wanted to mention to you, because you're welcome to come, but also anyone watching at home, we have our kindergarten open house. It's Thursday at 6 o'clock. We host it at Quinn. It's actually a very nice event for a lot of families. It's the first time they interact with Hudson Public Schools, so we work really hard to make sure that they feel welcome. We have a bunch of teachers that will be there. We have activities for kids. We have a school bus so they can get up on the school bus. Some of your kids may have gone recently. So we're really looking forward to that. It's at Quinn at 6 o'clock. Even if you just want to swing by and see it, you're welcome to be there. I do have to mention that our Board of Education for the state was in this room today. They had their May meeting in this room because Izzy Chamberlain, that's a high senior, is a student rep. I mentioned that to you before. The high school did an amazing job putting this on today. The department was extremely impressed with not just our high school, but our district. It was, I was talking to Chris on the phone earlier, it was really, for Hudson, a very positive PR day. A lot of photos taken by the state. We're going to have some student work featured in the next commissioner's update. He sends that to all superintendents every week. We had some students read their writing from the Scribbler, which is our literary magazine. From that, one of the students got invited to come to the superintendent's conference this summer and read the poem that she read as part of the opening for that, which there's usually 400 or 500 superintendents and assistant superintendents there. And another student got approached by a member of the BESE who happens to be a professor at Holy Cross in writing, and was asking the student, when you consider school, please consider our writing program at Holy Cross. She was so moved by her work. Lauren, Becky, and I were able to come to the table like that and speak to the board, where I was able to thank them for their continued advocacy and highlight Hudson's support for education. I mentioned that the community passed a Proposition 2.5 override last year, and then just came back and passed a debt exclusion for over $7 million to support the schools through physical improvements. So it was a great day for us to sort of highlight what we do here in Hudson. A lot of smiles. Kids were amazing, and I just want to thank the high school administration for putting that on. So really great event. I'm going to have Dan just come up and give a quick update on the roof projects, because we want to make sure you're aware of what's going on. This is going to move quickly, the roof projects. I want to make sure that you know, he has a quick handout for you, you know where the projects stand. Our goal is to get them done this summer, which means that we have to really rock and roll over the next couple of weeks to make sure we have contractors in place and ready to go. So, Dan, will give you the update.
Yeah, so we've been working on these for several months, and in some cases we're able to prepare for the potential of the debt exclusion passing, so we're able to do some work ahead of time. So on the Farley roof, it's a restoration around 42,000 square feet, and that will give us a new 20-year warranty. So now I'm going to replace all the insulation and everything. They're just going to replace any patches that need it, then mostly just spray on a new roof membrane that will last another 20 years. And then, so that's estimated cost around $1 million. And we are gonna go public tomorrow with the bid. So contractors will see the bid documents. We had an architectural firm create the bid docs for us. So then contractors will, we'll talk to the contractors as well as the architect will help us through the process to select the contractors, and then that is a much quicker process because they're not doing like replacing the whole roof, they're just kind of spraying on a new membrane. So we definitely think that will be a quick project. I think they said once they get started it'll just take a couple weeks, but we think it'll be done this summer. And then for the high school roof, that's the $6.2 million project, which is 153,000 square feet. It's a mixture of some restoration, some full replacement. That'll give us another 20-year warranty. And this one was a very big project, so we weren't sure if we could get it done this summer, but we're doing this project a little bit differently than the Farley project. The Farley project is just a regular bid, public bid. We do have an existing energy management services agreement with Train. They actually did the Farley air conditioning project for us already, and they're currently doing air conditioning project for the town hall. But under that agreement, it's a 20-year agreement, and they're allowed to do any kind of projects that fall within the scope of this law. It's called Massachusetts General Law 25A. And roofs are allowed any kind of outside of the building stuff as well as inside the building, AC, heating is all allowed. So we started talking to Train a few months ago about it, and this gave us the possibility of getting the project done this summer, and getting it done this summer versus next summer can save, they estimated maybe it would go up like another $1 million if we waited another summer. So if we went the normal bid process, we think it would have taken too long and we wouldn't have got it done this summer, but Train was able to create the bid documents, have contractors come look at the roofs last month, and then So they had bids in hand before town election, and then once election was approved, today we met with them to select the contractor. So the contractor is very confident that they can complete the project this summer. They have that window of labor and staff available to do it. So we are confident that it can get done this summer. It's a little bit different of a process, but because it's the energy management service agreement through there, the Department of Energy Resources actually has to approve the project, which takes up to 10 days, but hopefully pretty quick. And there's a couple other things that we have to do. There's a few different things going at the same time to get everything in place, but they are going to talk with the contractor tomorrow with a notice to proceed. So one of the things we wanted to do today was to kind of let you know about those different procurement processes and why we chose those processes. We think it'll get us the best, get it done this summer, and also we think that the pricing worked out well in both cases.
My understanding, Dan, too, for the contract with Train, that would be a signature from Tom Gregory. Because
Yeah.
Not the school committee.
Yeah, the energy management service contract included the school and the town, so the original document was signed by Tom Gregory. To do each project, like every time you do a new project, they just create an amendment to the contract. So he'll sign that. We'll have him continue signing those off, I believe.
We just want to keep you aware of how these projects are going, because they're very expensive projects, it's a lot of money, and I think you should just be in the loop, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
The last thing I just wanted to make sure that there were no questions on was, because it's not sort of a typical thing that I bring to you, but just change of the structure with the curriculum leadership. Just to reiterate, I'm not adding FTE. When we eliminated the assistant superintendent, essentially we created a reporting structure for the Hudson Public Schools that is a superintendent and then everybody else under the superintendent. By renaming some positions and sort of creating this executive director role, it provides a second layer of administration that I see as on par with the principals, or principals on district positions. And so it would elevate one of those curriculum positions that exists into an executive director of teaching and learning, who would then be able to coordinate efforts around curriculum, which was a lot of what the assistant superintendent did. But this is slightly less of a rank, I guess. And so that we don't create more confusion, we have two other positions that make the most sense to be in that same category, and that would be Dan's position, which would just change titles, executive director of, and then student services, which would be the same. So I don't know if folks had questions. It's not, I will, just to be upfront, in order to elevate that position, and need to be a slight adjustment to salary, but it wasn't anything that we weren't able to handle with the budget, and it doesn't put that person out of context where everybody else is paid, but it was not like adding another admin position, which could cost you $150,000. Something much less than that. So, so we just feel like this year has been a bit of a challenge trying to sort of organize things, and it's been like everything's been by committee, and that works to some degree, but not with everything. So this will solve some of those issues, and then also give me somebody that I can point to if I'm out of district for the day without sending a group email to say, hey, everybody, I'm off tomorrow for a personal day. Just be on call in case something happens. It doesn't feel good. So this gives me 3 really specific positions that I can point to. I'm out of district, which is not often, but when it happens. So I just wanted to call that out and make sure that there were no questions that I can answer for you guys tonight. And if there aren't, then that's all I have.
And thank you for all the details and the visuals. It's helpful, I think, for everybody watching. Just the level of transparency is appreciated.
Okay.
Subcommittee reports, the only thing we really have to report is that we have the superintendent's evaluation due on May 26th, which is Tuesday. Next, we have matters for discussion, old business, space needs study update.
Yeah, again, it was in your packet, so if there are questions, let me know. I would just say that our last meeting scheduled at the end of May has been pushed out a week. So we're gonna meet with the architects, our small committee, the first Wednesday in June. We are still targeting to have a final report to you by your second meeting in June. And then our small committee, which Chris has been a part of, we met a couple of weeks ago now. We started with 9 different options to look at. And we made a decision at that meeting that it really made sense to hone in on one specific option that then the school committee can have conversations about making, modifications to. Because there really was one that seemed like the best option for us to go forward. We'll talk more about it in the months ahead, but it does involve an MSBA project down the road. So you're talking about something that might be 5 to 7 years down the road before we're really deep into it. But it would give us a roadmap and a timeline to get there, because we're going to get a building project approved. It takes multiple years, a lot of data, and we want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row before we apply for an MSBA reimbursement grant. And so we'll give you more details in June, but just to give you an update, that process is continuing, and we'll know more in June. I don't know if it'll be us presenting or if our architects are going to come and share with you. But we'll make sure that we're well prepared for June. And then the thinking is in the fall, the school committee could, you could have a public hearing on the proposal, right, to invite families in, or we could, divide and conquer, and we could go to school council or home school meetings, or you could do both. But I do think the fall will be a good time for members and with my support to engage with the community around this. The interesting thing about it is it really impacts the elementary level, and so many of those families will not have, they have really small kids or they're planning to have more kids. Most of those children will likely be up to the middle school by the time this project rolls around, but that doesn't mean we should engage with them just to get their feedback on it. So that's the thinking, that we present it to you in June, and then we kick off the year and use the fall to get additional feedback from the product. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them, but we'll circle back in June.
All right, transportation update.
Yes, just 2 items. I can't remember how detailed I got last time, but we did lose our spot at Reed Road.
Yeah.
We will move the buses at the end of June. Dan had a call for a student today. I don't have enough information to give you sort of where we are with that, but we have been talking with them about the potential of our desire to go out to bid early. And not take advantage of year 4 and 5 of their contract, which we don't have to, we're not obligated to. And that has sort of perked their ears up a little bit to see if there's something that we can't discuss to maybe make year 4 and 5 feel more desirable for us to stick with. I will continue my conversations with Town Hall to see if there's any opportunity to re-engage around potential space in town for the buses. But, right now we don't have a plan other than having first student store these buses come fall. And the last rate they gave us was roughly $200,000 each, which is not in the budget. So that will be a hit to school choice funds, for example, if we have to use that money. So we're going to be really active around this to try and come up with a solution. I talked with somebody coming in today who asked me a question about another parcel of land I don't want to get into publicly yet, but that's something we will also explore. So there's different angles to look at this through, and we're going to try them all again just to see if we can land it in place. Ultimately, the goal here is to find town land and if we can store them at. And then I wanted to just give you an update on the pilot that Tara mentioned last meeting for families that are within the WAT zone. So we will officially commit to, yes, we're going to continue that pilot for next year. The timeline is a little late. I was thinking we might be able to reach out earlier, but I was realizing we have to rely on, we have to get the WAT zones first to know who those kids are. That happens every summer, so it will likely be a summer notification. I can put something out in my sort of end of the year communication to families just in general to say the But the pilot's going to continue. There'll be more information coming out once we know for sure sort of where all the bus routes are and all of that. So it'll probably be like an August notification, but we'd be able to start at the beginning of the year, so it's not going to slow down. For example, like I need to, when I send the information out to people, they need to indicate which bus stop they want to use, because that helps us determine which buses are going to have additional students on it and making sure that we can fit those students. So I realized that after the last meeting that it's really necessary for me to have that information before I can, fully go forward with notifying families. But minimally, I think in one of my June communications, I can remind folks that we're committed to doing this again so that they can plan around it. And then more details will come up this summer. The cost that the school committee voted was $300 with a reduced fee. If families had a need, they would go through a process through Dan's office to express that need. Last year was cheaper, but just reminding things, this would be prorated it because we started at the November. So it would be, unless the committee feels differently, we would go forward with the same fee this year. So.
Brian, can you just talk about the bus storage for 1
Sure.
minute, just for anybody watching? Can you remind people why the buses were moved from town property initially, and if there was ever a plan to have them back on town property at the time?
Yeah, so when I arrived in July of 2023, I was immediately reminded, even though I hadn't been told before, but it's kind of a joke, I was told that my predecessor had been informed that when the new DPW facility was constructed, that buses would need to move, and that there was no acreage in the new plan for school bus storage. When engaging in a conversation about that, what I heard from the DPW director at the time is sort of going back in history and saying that it really never should have been stored there. It was supposed to be temporary, but they had been there for, I think, over 20 years at that location, so it didn't feel very temporary to me. So there was frustration, obviously, from the school department because we were transitioning leadership, and it just seemed like it was a big surprise. All of a sudden, now we have this issue to address, but it had been decided, right? And so we tried a couple of different avenues on town land. Did not have any luck. Started doing some research with private lease agreements. They were as much as $12,000 a month just for a couple acres of land, which still is cheaper than what the bus company's charging us, but it's just an expense that we didn't really want to do. And so, yeah, there was really no engagement or interest in sort of engagement from the town side around sort of trying to see if we can take another look at the DPW facility and see if it's possible. I was just told that the facility's done and that it's designed and there's just no room.
Okay. So I think because a lot of people have probably reached out, but there's a lot of people in this town who want to figure out a way to be able to store these buses on town property.
Yep.
We don't want to have to go for another override to store buses, and people have a lot of really good ideas out there, some of which I'm sure have been shared with you.
Yep.
I just want to say that there, whether it be police land or DPW land, or exploring whether or not the Hudson side of Highland Commons, which I know is not town property, if there could be potentially a reduction in their community impact fees to be able to store buses there. There's a lot of space in this town, and we're all trying to be fiscally responsible. So taking this money from the school budget when it doesn't exist is just going to kind of push us back to a situation where we have to come back to the town and talk about asking for more money. And so I just want to say publicly that there are a lot of people who are prepared to help kind of get creative with this, but I think we're acting independently and responsibly to try to figure out a plan within our control, but I think that we should just exhaust every possible option in this town first.
Yeah, and I would say if people you shared a couple of ideas, if people, and I'm willing to say to the person I was talking on the way in today, like, yes, I mean, that person was willing to do a little legwork on behalf of the department. I said, please, if that's not overstepping, you ask the question, let me know when I can step in too, so.
I'll just give you a little bit of history on Highland Commons. So Highland Commons is half in Hudson, half in Berlin. Both entrances are in Hudson. All the water sewer comes from Hudson. So Hudson did get mitigation money. So the town line runs about I don't know what direction that would be, southerly of TJ Maxx, straight across, and then it cuts through BJ's on the other side. BJ's is actually in both towns, so the only land that I'm aware of that's left up at Highland Commons has already been poured as there's a Chick-fil-A, and then there's a restaurant at Ford. I don't think there's any space up there to call Henderson to ask them to look at, unless I'm wrong. And then anything else
I
would
think
be,
in that area by Lowe's and Chick-fil-A, there potentially could be, if we're working with the same numbers that we were before. How many buses are there?
14,
Yeah.
roughly 14 large and then 7 small.
So we were looking, but people are, I mean, like that land might be slated for something else, and then that's not gonna work for the little restaurant there, but right now there certainly looks like there is. It's certainly near DPW property, there looks like there is.
Are you willing to, even beyond just this meeting, because I don't know how many people actually listen to this meeting, to ask for suggestions, or how big we going?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm not open to suggestions, I'm just afraid of what,
Yeah, why?
asking an open-ended question, what that gives us. If there's a manageable way to do that. Because some of it is like the land looks adequate, and then you realize when you talk with the bus company, like people aren't thinking that, like just to get a bus, the swing space they need to get a bus into a parking space, and then you need space for 25, 30 cars, because the drivers need parking. So there are, and I don't want it to come across so we're saying, no, sorry, that's no good either,
No,
right? So,
No, I think that's the perfect information to share back with
Yeah.
people to build trust, right? So
Right.
that we can say, we explored this and here's why it can't work.
Yeah.
We explored this and I think that's a partnership.
And this is what we need to make it work, like these, like you need a radius of this much.
yeah,
There's the
Parking
DPW
spots.
director, there's already
Right.
been conversations, people have shared these concerns directly. I was saying less about their recommendations and more about just the advocacy, the support.
Yes.
And make sure that this happens.
there's an outside possibility that the problem could resolve itself through your contract, correct?
possibly. Yep. If we do bid, I mean, those bids will come in with that, that alternate on there, that it's gonna cost this much if you, right? And we don't know, I mean, if we do go out to bid, we could get a more manageable number, which would be lower than what we're bidding. I don't know if Dan wants to add, talking out of school. I wasn't in the meeting today, I was double booked for.
Yeah, I did get a chance to talk to our student today, so I think it is ideal to get a location in Hudson. But they reviewed a bunch of things, we asked them to see what can be adjusted to accommodate potentially parking at their location. They have a maintenance location in Marlboro that they could fit a lot of buses at. So they did say, with a few adjustments to the contracts, they could house our buses there at no additional cost for going forward, which is good. I think that also tells me, like, if we had a location in Hudson, they maybe could even reduce the cost of the contract to us, but they said that they can they can do it without increasing the bid that they've already made. And if we accept, they would want us to accept now, like option the 4th and 5th year, and they would, one of the main changes that they would request is allowing the buses to be 10 years old instead of 8 years old, which is what our current contract says, but there are several other districts in the area that allow 10 years, and they said that they maintain their buses, and usually last 10 to 12 years, so I don't see too much of an issue with allowing those changes and committing. We have to commit now to the 4th and 5th year, but so it's definitely something we can like review. It's definitely a good option in terms of like not adding cost, but I would like to continue to pursue a potential location in Hudson and see if they can actually lower the cost of the contract if we could provide a space.
That's a good update.
It's a good.
Yeah, that is very good.
And you said with no increase, does that just mean no increase for storage, or does that mean no
Yeah.
escalation? Escalation?
It would continue to do the normal escalation that they did, the percentage each year, but no additional. In the fourth and fifth year, 7% actually, it's like 7% increases, and So they said we can stay with that amount. And they can start storing them as of July 1st.
Dan and I haven't had a chance, obviously, to talk today after the meeting, so it's good that we have that information. I didn't want to say anything that hadn't been agreed to, discussed sort of in a public way, but, I mean, obviously, I would agree with you, Dan, that like, if we're able to negotiate the contract that way, that's sort of a great solution for now, but we don't even bid a contract in 3 years if we agree. And having space in Hudson makes this a non-issue for us typically going forward, so. But it does give us the space to sort of do it without feeling like we have to do it next week or next month, which is for us.
One last thing, sorry. Can you just remind us all, because what would the cost be with that 7%? Like, yeah.
I think it was, I'd have to get back to you on the numbers. I know it went up by like $1 million that when it went up a couple of years ago, but I don't have the good enough numbers to give you right now.
Thank you.
Dan, you might want to stay right there. So that's all on that, correct?
That's all I have, unless there are.
Alright. Any questions? So Dan, now we have new business. We only had one new business, quarter 3 financial report.
All right, so this report figures through the end of April. And so I had a memo that I think you guys have there on where we're at with each section. So in general, I'm estimating the cost will come in around $350,000 over budget, and that will be offset by $350,000 additional usage of revenues. So I'll go through the details of all that. So for personnel budget, we're estimating around $330,000 over budget. This is primarily due to unexpected increased staffing, which we've talked about already throughout the budget process. There's an additional para and also 6 additional ABAs, which is adding around $200,000. And we had to add an additional kindergarten teacher at Forest, which is around $100,000. So that's definitely the bulk of where we're at. We have had some vacancy savings, which has accumulated enough to offset most of our vacancy factor that we've talked about during the budget process as well. And then for general expenses, projected to be under budget by $340,000. There's a lot of different lines that are some small variances, but the largest item is the out-of-district tuition, which is projected to be under budget, partially because we're going to use extra circuit breakers to offset that line, but also due to some changes in placement or some students moving out of Hudson.
The general expense differential is 372, right? You had said something like 340. I just want, in case people are looking at the sheets, I want to make sure they know.
Yeah, 372.
That's okay, I just didn't want people to be confused.
Yeah, so there's some lines that are actually under budget, and we're accounting for that in the FY27 budget also already. So for transportation, we're estimating to be over budget by $191,000. The in-district transportation is pretty on budget because that doesn't fluctuate that much, and we have the set contract with per student. Out-of-district transportation fluctuates a lot more, especially because we don't have a set contract with like one vendor. We deal with a lot of different vendors and have to. We try to get the best price for each route. We've had to add a few routes this year, so that caused us to be a little bit over budget in transportation. When I budgeted for school choice and circuit breaker, it was somewhat conservative, but school choice is estimated to come in, well, bring in 1.5 million of new revenue in FY '26, which was $200,000 more than budgeted, and we had estimated 1.6 million of circuit breaker, but we are projected to receive 2.1 million circuit breaker in FY '26. So some of these additional revenues will be used to offset any amount that we're over budget. I can take any questions anybody has.
Anyone? All right, thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
So we have no old business. You know, there's any business on your place.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. Now we're under,
We have new business for discussion, new business.
Yeah, that's right.
right, okay, I'm sorry. Forget it. Next we've already done the school committee organization, so next we have the approval of the 3-year employment contract for Dan Gale to serve as Director of Finance and Operations for the period of July 1st.
Motion to approve the 3-year employment contract for Dan Gale to serve as Director of Finance and Operations. Can we change that? This question for the period commencing July 1st, 2026.
Second.
So that was March and Chris Monsignor. Right?
Hopefully they want to get it together.
Any discussion?
Small.
Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
You're also done a good job. Because of that bus park.
True story.
Approval of the school committee meeting calendar for 2026 to 2027.
So I modeled this largely after what we followed this year. I think the 2 dates that I just want to bring to people's attention, because these typically are the ones that we talk about, are the summer meetings.
Yeah.
It's not that we need all 7, but we need to make sure we have a quorum just to do business and pay bills and such in July and August. And I try to mirror them around the same weeks that we used last year. I know it's hard, but some people don't even know when their summer vacations are.
I just have one. I might need to be remote for the July meeting. That's all. I can just log in. Yeah.
We can always move it.
We're on
if-
July 13th also.
To be gone.
Well, the application.
Yeah, okay.
I might be, but I can log in remotely.
I'll be away for August, but I could plug in.
I'm here for both.
One thing I want to pay attention to, and I print out everything, so I could get this up in color. We want to watch the length of our meetings, and sometimes when we don't have 2 meetings in a row, and we skip 3 weeks, or February seems to be an issue, and maybe April. I want to take a look to see if we. I didn't color here. Here it is. So we have 2. So in February, we only have 1.
Yeah, it's February and April.
We add a second meeting in those to.
The only challenge I have, and we can get around it, is like, we're often not fully staffed the week of vacation, so that it's hard. I just find a challenge putting a packet together. We could post an agenda by that Friday. I just think getting the packet together when the district's closed for the week. I mean, there are some people working, but it's not every time. If that's the preference, we can make it work. That's just, I think, why it's historically released recently.
Well, it's a balance, because when you go from February 9th all the way to March 2nd, and when you go from April 6th We would be going from April 6th all the way to May 4th.
I mean, the other option is you adjust the April meeting, but
Well, I was gonna make a suggestion there.
Yes.
If you added a meeting on March 30th, and then the next one is April 13th.
you have 3 in March, you mean?
Yeah, because it's pretty much a 5-week month.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure is.
Would that help a little bit so that, yes, if you moved it to April 13th,
It would bring the May and April
it
meetings
may wouldn't be
closer,
as far away from April,
Right.
so I think that's a suggestion.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like that. And we understand.
Yeah,
There's nothing against that 3 meetings a month, right?
no, it's good.
Yes, I don't know, this is a silly question,
But
but
and I think too, because we're in budget season in March, right? So that's probably a good
Yep.
time to have that extra one in case you need something.
All right, so March.
you move the
30th,
16th.
move-
Oh, no, not move, you
Add the
add
30th,
That-
move April 6th
the
to
13th. Yeah.
So yes, there's on either end, there's still a 3-week, but at least it's not a 4-week. Yeah.
Right,
Or go the other way, right, like add February 23rd and then move March 2nd to 9th and 16th to the 23rd.
February though, if we meet on the 9th and the whole next week, there's no school, like, we're
Yeah.
probably not gonna have a lot to talk about that next week. I think February's fine.
Yeah. in February.
I think that's been the problem following the April vacations too, there's not, I mean, you could just open a meeting and have a quick business meeting and close, but we don't have a whole lot we're putting on those agendas, so it feels like a wasted week.
It feels like March is going to be the busiest part of that
Yeah.
section of the school year, so.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly tightens it up.
Somebody should check the town website because the school committee used to meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. And some of them still are, but it's all scattered now. So I don't know, does it say anywhere we meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays on the town website? It used to.
I'd have to check. Yeah.
Are these all at 7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Even the summer ones, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when I tried to start putting this together a couple of years ago, to keep it consistent on the 2nd and 4th, then you'd end up running in a month where
Right.
the 4th one is the Tuesday before the holiday break, or it's
Right.
like, so it was like, there was always something
So you're
that was
better
throwing
off.
it
doing
off,
this.
or there was it was hard to maintain, but I'd have to check and see if it says that on
The
the.
select board, I think they still are, they're every other week. We used to be the 2nd and 4th Tuesday.
But if you see, like, if you did that for
Yeah,
September,
running
8 and
it.
22, then you'd end up with an extra week between the 20, you go from the 22nd, there'd be 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks.
All I'm saying is if it says 2nd and 4th Tuesday somewhere, then it should be revised, so that as posted.
You know, on the town website, it brings you to the schools, so
Yeah.
it doesn't usually says.
It's probably out there.
I can make sure.
Did you really mean to have the summer meetings
On Mondays?
Did I?
Because the 13th and the 24th are Monday.
The summer meetings.
How the heck did I do that?
I really did work last year.
So can't come on the 14th.
No, I did not mean that.
Oh, I was wondering why you picked Monday, that's so funny.
I
I just assumed that like.
Good call there,
summer
Joan,
was like
sorry.
Sundays.
Right, so the 14th
Well-
and the 24th.
Is that a stupid question?
No, 26.
Well, we already,
No,
oh,
yes.
yes.
No, last year it was,
Maybe he was looking at.
was it, maybe I looked the whole year ahead?
Yeah, yeah.
Possible.
Because those are Tuesdays.
Yeah, I think that's
Add
probably
March
right, yeah,
30th.
but I.
And everything else is the same.
Yeah.
Or move to April 6th and 13th.
So it's 14 and 25, right?
Yeah, so the changes to this calendar are 14 and 25 for the summer,
Okay,
adding the 30th of March and moving April 6th to the 13th.
okay. So there's still one in April, but it's the 13th, okay.
Just one other thing, December 8th is Hanukkah. I don't know if that impacts anybody else, just to make sure that we still have enough people here. I know I can't do that date. Has a conflict.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we checked Yom Kippur and Rosh
I
Hashanah.
checked those, yeah. those
Yeah.
are good.
Couldn't we move December to the 1st and 15th?
Yes, it could,
Because we don't usually meet during Christmas.
that makes sense.
Well, again, what, I'll do whatever you want, but that means that I'm trying to put a packet out on people, we only have
It's
2
getting
days
the
of
half
school.
it, that's the problem.
Because we're closed 25, well, half day 25. We'd have to post the agenda. I mean, again, we can turn it around, it's just that it might be a really minimal.
That's fine. I think.
Yeah,
we
just
should-
do what you,
Are you saying?
I'm saying like if we move, Chris was saying we had December go 1 and 15 instead of 8 and 22, that would mean I'd have to get a packet out to you
Oh,
by Tuesday, November 24th, or
Yeah.
midday Wednesday, the 25th. But again, we can,
But if we do change December, we're not dealing with Hanukkah in.
Yeah.
20 seconds really tough.
yeah, it's-
Yeah.
Or we just, I know we're going backwards here, but we go to one meeting on the 15th.
yeah,
You can do that.
We come
Why
out,
would we do that?
Thanksgiving break, that's something.
It's the 15th of December, then. So we're adding one and taking one away, so it'd be March 30th,
Mhm.
add.
Sounds like a good idea.
March 30th, add.
Mhm. Scratch December 8th and 22nd, replace with the 15th.
Correct. And move April 6th to the 13th.
Mhm.
I'm just want to warn you, that means that you're about a month between November and December. school.
Who does?
You go from November 17th to December 15th.
Hmm.
Because you really can't move the November 1 to the 24th, that would be probably, well, unless you think that's less problematic, you could do the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
No, we don't want to do that.
I mean, ultimately, right, if you could, yeah.
I think we canceled it this year.
No, we had one meeting, and then we had a second meeting for
Yeah.
the recap. So, okay, you wanna make it the 15th of December?
That makes sense.
I would say that, and then, again, we had to do a special meeting.
Yeah, we always call it special meeting.
Sure, yeah.
Pull it together.
I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
I'm fine with whatever you want to do. I'll be here when you schedule your meeting, I'll be here.
Do we vote on the school committee calendar?
We did last time, so I
Alright,
put it.
so,
You voted.
Motion to
With those
approve
changes,
the
right?
2026-2027 school committee calendar with the adjustments that we discussed.
Second, Carol. It always looks up like this.
so it's March,
Yeah. Frequent.
all those in favor? Unanimous. Next, we have the consent agenda. Does anybody need anything pulled out of the consent agenda, or can we go to those one block? Sounds like one block to me,
Minor edit on the minutes, so that's it.
but just make the edit. Do you want to say it?
Oh.
Let me know. You can-
Zach Wall's name is spelled wrong on both pages.
Alright.
Is it at, do you know what page that is?
Yeah, it was page 3. I was a proofreader in another life, I'm convinced.
No, that's good.
I'm trying to find the, no, sorry.
That's okay, I'll have to teach you.
Yeah.
It just says Mr. Newell instead of Mr.
Oh, sorry, Zach.
Mr. Mule.
Someone else, please.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Who's the second? Is there a second? Thanks. All those in favor? Unanimous. Any items of interest to the school committee?
Sorry.
I have
You go
one.
first.
Nice, great. Just, is this where we decide the school council seats and stuff?
That's what I was bringing up.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I was gonna say this, we're in a unique situation, we've had no change in the committee. Why don't people email me if they want to be on something that they're not? So if you're happy with where you are, you don't need to email me. Email me if you want to be on something that you aren't already. Keeping in mind that if somebody emails me that they want to be on something that they're not already, that will affect somebody else, and we'll try to make the changes as fairly as we can.
Fair.
Okay, just a couple of follow-up, this is the loudest microphone in history, I'm trying to place there. A couple of follow-ups from our last meeting, I want to keep it on the agenda until it happens, just to make sure that we schedule parent-teacher conferences for the next school year. I know you were meeting with the principals and you were going to start to look at dates, but any updates there?
Yeah, so I will say part of the issue here, you recall, we had a level 3 grievance associated with this, so that's what's slowing it down a little bit. So I'm working with Nick to make sure that we're proceeding perfectly. But we, so just so you know, I emailed the AGA our proposed dates, I believe Monday of this week, what's today? Yeah, yesterday. And then we emailed them yesterday. So they have what we're proposing and understand that we want to move forward with that. So my hope is that before the next meeting, we're able to share it with the public, but if not.
No, that's perfect, that's still way sooner than we had them before, so
Yeah.
that's it. And then the second thing is just, I had a question last time about our quarry protocol in our
Yes.
schools.
Yep.
And there's a lot of end of year events coming up, and I just want to clarify, some schools are saying that anybody who is on site at the school, even if they're in a classroom with teachers, still needs to have a quarry check. Some schools are saying that unless you are on a field trip where you are going to be alone with students without staff, then you do not need a quarry. I just want to clarify that procedure.
Yeah, really what it's, so I did do some investigating after our last meeting. Yes, there is at least one school that's a bit inconsistent. The district message has been, we need to quarry check volunteers if they are going to be supervising students. So if you were to, for example, be a guest reader in your child's classroom, we would not require that parent to quarry check because you're coming in, the teacher's in charge of the classroom, you're reading to that child and then you're leaving. Field trips are examples, I think, where there's some inconsistency, particularly is around field days because they might have a parent that's running a station, right? And so I've had those conversations with elementary principals. So we don't, and I also look to see if we have a policy, which we do, but it's very vague. It just talks about we use quarry checks, it doesn't say when. So I'm happy to hear sort of feedback from the committee if you feel to go one way or the other. I will say if we go 100% that anyone that enters the building or somebody needs one, it's going to really, I'd just be honest, it'll slow us down from getting volunteers because they don't come back that quickly and all that. So
I would love to add that to a future agenda for us to look at, whether it's however policy subcommittee or however it gets back here, because I definitely think we need to add some language to that. I have a lot of feelings about it, but I'll save that when it's on the agenda. And I think we could really specifically indicate the types of events that don't slow down the process, but that make sure our kids are safe in our schools. So thank you for that.
So maybe if I could just add one thing, maybe you just mentioned policy, that could be the avenue that we could explore. Like we could pull that, because that policy really doesn't help us at all. It just doesn't give us any guidance. So I'm happy to explore that, and we can get, I think the policy subcommittee would be a good place.
Yeah,
And even if you're not on that committee, I think you could come to that.
Well, you can't, I'm the majority of the subcommittee.
Right, bad idea.
I'd like to be on that.
Anyway, I think that would be a good mechanism for us.
Great. And then I just want to follow up from last month's public comments when Megan came and speaking of policies, had a lot of really great ideas and really important feedback for us. I'd love to add that to an agenda item for a future meeting to talk a little bit. No, not the policy. I would like just clarification on what currently is blocked in schools, what isn't, and why. So maybe we could invite Ellen to the beginning of the meeting before it goes to any sort of like policy conversation. I just think I'd like to better understand kind of some of the rules around that. We also have an email that came in with kind of some similar questions. I think,
That's what I responded to.
yeah, so I think it's probably a good time. And maybe we could reach out to Megan and invite her to that meeting as well.
And the only reason I thought of that last meeting, I'll ask Ellen to come in 2 weeks, but she's in charge of our MCAS testing platforms at the elementaries, and that's been a busy couple of weeks for us. So, but we did have a brief conversation after, so yes, we can get her in. I think that's the best course of action because she can really answer some specific questions that I'm able to answer off the cuff, right? And then I think from that discussion, we can think about if there are any desired changes to policy, for example.
And then lastly, at Forest Homeschool meeting last week, the new principal came and joined us and met everybody. Dr. Riley, she's just absolutely amazing. Just connecting already with people, so approachable, so just seems so kind and excited to be there. And it's just so great to see that she has that time to overlap with Dave and already reaching out and connecting with parents. So just wanted to say thank you to her. Excited to be here at some point too.
Been very flexible about her time, and it's been great, and she continues to be very excited about the transition thoughts. And so she's also been involved, volunteering her time to be a part of hiring committees, because she feels very strongly about having a voice in who she's bringing into her school, which is what we want to see. So she's been taking some time out of her life to come before us and participate, so we appreciate that.
I just have 2 quick things. Let's say, Farley Elementary did their art show. I know you had one of the elementary schools art show in there, but it was amazing. Mr. Wire and Ms. Page really put on a wonderful show for the parents, and it was really nice to see the kiddos highlighting all the work that they put in. And then over the weekend, I don't know if any of you were able to see Firebringer. The kids are so talented. I brought my 10-year-old and we got autographs after the show. That's how good it was. So, yeah, just wanted to shout out to
That's
that.
great.
Yeah.
Glad you're able to go. It's nice when they pick a show that's appropriate for
Yeah.
elementary students.
Some of the language wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Chris, I'll just say on record, I'm happy with keeping the roles that I have currently on the committees and school council. I'm not going to fight and move forward, so if anyone wants to see.
Whoever wants something that they're not on, email me, and then I'll just look at the sheet and see
I'll
what
look
I
at
can
the
do.
room, so that's why I'm saying that. So.
Back to the minutes.
What I have, unless. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll give that one to Tara. All those in favor? And we're adjourned at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
They're here too.
Did my best.
So this is going to be
Very
hard.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll walk.
So-